Yep. And we'll talk about them. If we don't, you can always come up to me afterwards and and Eva Perigo. That has been our past ever. We have other programming going on one thing for open dogs. Working hours, other area, rescue, health, and we're also working with a foster network. A lot of times, we are working it doesn't have to be done, but it's really on your, so I'm not going to tell. And I'll have to talk to Eva, but I just want to mention, well, we talk about our water, people, Thanks, Becky. One last thing too, if you would be so kind, I know it's annoying to fill out questionnaires, but we do have a short little like 4-question questionnaire just to kind of help us make sure that we can make these events as fruitful as possible for you all. There's also candy and water if you need it. So as Becky said, I'm Eva Perigo. I'm a certified dog trainer and behavior counselor, as well as a certified separation anxiety trainer. I run a private business called Star Dog Training here in town. And then also, she said, I'm one of the 3 co-founders with Cody, man behind the curtain, and Becky. So thank you all for showing up. We really appreciate this. Spread the word, tell your friends. We encourage any of you volunteer at any of the rescues or shelters in town, like please come. A lot of, this is a pretty dog-centric presentation. However, a lot of this does apply to other animals, other species. So there is a question about cats here today. So I'm going to address it because I know there's some aggression in there happening. And I want to talk a little bit about how the learning theory is across the board with all vertebrate animals. It doesn't just apply to dogs. It doesn't just apply to cats. It applies to any animal that has vertebrae. A lot of the techniques and concepts that I speak about today can apply to multiple species. If you feel like you need questions about a species other than dog, you need more information, please let us know afterwards, because we can definitely get you in contact with certified trainers who specialize in cats. trainers who specialize in horses, livestock, etc. So we've got a wealth of resources and knowledge. And then also at the end of this, if you feel like you need a little bit more information than what you got in our presentation today, just come see us afterwards and we'll talk about how we may be able to help assist you further. So I do see I kind of grouped some of these questions. We got a lot of really great and diverse questions, which is awesome. It makes me excited. I love this stuff so much. So I'm gonna kind of group a little bit. The first one I have in here is how to handle aggressiveness, biting, and meowing at the door. Meowing makes me assume that this is a cat. So unless you got a cool dog that knows how to mimic. So I want to just ask, if you don't mind, a little bit of precursor, because sometimes what we need to know is what's happening before the aggression starts. So if you don't, do you mind? Yeah. Okay. So when the cat is starting to get aggressive, if you'll tell me a little like scenario is what's happening beforehand, that's eliciting this aggression. Okay. Do you have I mean, I don't need to know exact ages, but about how old were the kids? Okay. Was the cat on the couch? Okay. Oh, okay. So the 6-year-old was climbing on the couch, and then what's your cat's name? Yeti. And Yeti came up and attacked from behind. Okay. And has she ever displayed that with anybody else? Okay. Okay. First things first, if it's like very particular in that situation, like if this happens, if you have an animal that is going after a very particular, like one single person, maybe not somebody that's over often or somebody that is doesn't live at the house, it's kind of a rarity that that person's coming over. The easiest things to do is management, which is just keep them separated. And that just prevents, especially when we're dealing with little kids, it can be, we don't know, it could have been a little girl behind that earlier, we don't know. We didn't see any of that. I know it seemed pretty unprovoked, but when aggression happens in an animal, there is always a reason in the animal's brain. So they always have a reason. We may think it's random. They always have a reason. So it's our job to kind of decipher what is it that's triggering this animal to feel like it needs to do that. Now, with a cat being such a predator species, it could have also been the movement. Sometimes cats do like to just go after movement. And especially if they're stressed out or overwhelmed or whatnot. So management is always kind of your first tool. So like if the kids are coming over again, or we know that she's attacked that age group, maybe we just hit it if possible. If not, fully separate, a doorway, a bedroom versus a living room. The thing you can start to do is to create positive associations. So have you ever, I know this is probably a no, but I'm going to ask, have you ever trained a cat? Leash trained it? Have you ever gotten a cat comfortable with being on a leash? Okay. That's typical. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're wily creatures. So, would she be willing to be contained in a crate? Okay. So what you could do as well is like put her in the crate if the kids come over, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a full separation. And great. And so that's management. Management can be kind of the easiest thing you can ever do. It doesn't change the behavior, it just kind of manages the situation. No learning is taking place, but it does prevent a repeat of that behavior. But what we can do is we can also start utilizing that crate, start creating positive associations with the kids. So if you put her like in a crate, where the cat could have visual of the kids, but the kids are far enough away, what you could do is like take some dried tuna fish or something the cat really likes. You know, those little dried sardines are really awesome. And anytime the cat and the kid are in the same room, so the kid enters the room, we drop some of those sardines into the crate. And she's eating the sardines, and so what she starts to realize, that every time this kid comes over to my house, I get sardines falling from the sky. And so they start creating these positive associations. When it comes to the petting, that can happen with all species, even including humans. Some animals, they do want to may want to be right next to us, but they may not necessarily want to be touched. And so what it's always important to do is do testing when we're engaging with our animals. And so a consent test basically is like, you know, I've got a dog here, but it'd be the same with a cat. So if I'm petting a dog or an animal, what I'm going to do is pet for about like 5 seconds or so, and then I'm going to stop and see if the animal asks for more. So if they orient into my direction, or they nudge me, or they burrow in a little bit, then that tells me that animal is enjoying that and wants more. I'm going to pet for another 5 to 10 seconds. I'm going to stop and evaluate whether the animal wants more. The cat in the lap, same thing. We let the cat stay in the lap, pet 5, 10 seconds, stop, and see if that animal actually, you know, turns, orients to us. And so when you have guests over and she's in their lap, or he is in their lap, just have them just double check. Because sometimes what will happen is they'll like the pets for a while, and then they're like, all right, that's enough. And that's where that bite happens, right? Stop. And it's the same thing for us. Like, if I go in for a hug, I don't want somebody to hug me for 10 minutes. You know, like I'm going to be like, okay, get off of me. So it's the same thing. It's just consent checking, you know, just checking in with the animal. Are you still enjoying this? And giving them that choice, because maybe the cat will jump off the lap. They're like, all right. And we a lot of times put animals, we force them into touch way more than they actually want to be. A lot of animals are not as into it as they want. Mm-hmm. She's basically, in cat language, she's saying, I don't like what you're doing, and I'm telling you to get away or stop. And so then in that moment, if we see a hiss or we see a bite, or what we need to assess is what was happening right before the animal did that. Because that is what the animal is saying, I don't like. It's saying, it's the same thing if like Cody came over here and like ran up in my face, I'm like, whoa, what just happened before I did that, right? So what happened when the animal said, I don't like that? And a bite in a cat is a cat saying, very well could have been if it was a lap situation, that she pet too hard, she pet in a way she didn't like, it was too long, or the interaction was something the animal didn't like. Meowing at the door is a hard one. A redirection behavior is probably the way to go. And what I mean by that is training the animal to, and this goes for, well, this can go for a number of these questions, but actually, this would actually apply to the puppy who's biting on furniture, mainly wood, okay? Potentially the how to acclimate parties with only humans, especially that one. The fence aggression question here of why is the animal barking at the fence line, but totally friendly. One of the questions here is when the opposite side of the fence, the dog is aggressively barking, but once the animal's on the fence, they're fine and friendly. So a lot of these can be solved by what's called a redirection behavior. The redirection behavior is when you teach a dog to redirect away from something that it's interested in. And so cat's meowing at the door, dog barking at the fence. We can cue something like I'm going to demo this actually. Will you actually go grab Stella for me? She has I believe she has, and the doors are open. Hi, River. And I'm going to demo this with my dog because this is a really strong behavior she has. And this actually could work for Bruce. Think about it, but I want to kind of touch on that a little bit. So what Leave It does is it teaches a dog to or an animal to disengage with what they're looking at and focus on you instead. So let's say, how about instead of that behavior, we do this other thing instead. And then as a reward, we need to give the animal a reason to want to do this alternative behavior. Because the dog wants to bark at the fence, or the dog wants to bark to drive through people, the dog wants to chew on furniture, the cat wants to get outside. Come here, baby. Hey, I know, she's the mayor. I just got her her birthday present, a little bandana that says that. Come on. She just loves people so much. Hi. So, they want to get at whatever that is. And so we need to motivate the animal. We need to give them a reason to want to do what we're asking them to do. It's opposite of what they want. And so that is where food and play can come in, especially the cat and also the dog at the fence line. Sometimes, and actually, you know what, even with the puppy chewing on the wood, you know, if we give them just a little cookie, most likely they're probably going to go right back to what they were doing. Food is a great motivator for sure, and I love using food, but sometimes in those situations, play is better. In the case of the cat's like, it's boring in here. So if we do like a, leave it, yes, good girl. If we cue a redirection behavior, in this case, instead of using food like I am right now, we could engage with play. So you could start playing with the cat toy, we could start throwing the ball, we could play tug of war, we could give a mental enrichment game for the animal, give them something else to do, because typically the animal's going, ho-hum, I'm bored, and I'm gonna find an outlet for my boredom. And so we say, how about instead of doing that, you come over here, and as a reward for coming over here, I'm gonna give you something to do. So I'm probably not going to have time to get into all these details, but if you want to learn about them, just see me after and I can tell you about all the different fun activities. Particularly for the puppy chewing on wood, things like bully sticks, anything chewing on the wood, we chew on another thing that mimics that feeling, but it is legal. The cat wanted to go outside. They're like, I want to play. I want to go explore. So let's give them something that mimics what she or that she's looking for out there. So that's hunting behavior, you know, that's kind of exploring. So playing with a cat toy, giving her some hunt games, finding some different toys that she's super into. So when she redirects, you give her that fun toy. So she starts to realize that it's actually really fun and awesome to be inside. With the dog fence, it kind of, what's on the other side that the dog is barking at? Human or dogs? Who's quite other dogs. Okay. So that's probably a desire for play. There's a dog, I want to play with it. So if we redirect it, then we have to give the dog what they're looking for, which is a little bit of play. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah. There's so many people. Good job. So I'm going to delve into that one just a little bit more particular in a second here. I just want to show kind of what a leave it is. So one of the simplest ways you can teach it. So I'm just going to leave it. Yes, good girl. So right there, she wanted food. Now this is a behavior she knows, right? As she's responding to it. She wanted some of the treats that are on one of the chairs here. She's very food motivated. And so I cue it, and she redirects over to me, and she gets paid for it. So it's a, how about instead of stealing food off the table or whatnot, you focus on me, and I'm going to give you something to do. If we were at home and she was trying to get into something, instead of just feeding her a single cookie, I'd probably give her a mental enrichment food-based toy, something that would engage her for quite some time. So one of the simplest ways to start teaching a leave it is even literally right here. You put something that animal's motivated by. In the case of the cat, you can just use the door. In the case of the puppy, just puppy being puppy. And if there is, what you can do, we're probably not, maybe. What I can do is you put something the animal is motivated by. So I'm going to put a little pile of treats here. And she's going to want it. Now, once again, she knows this trick. I'm going to, you can cue it. She's on. Kid, go kid. You're going to be too good, aren't you? Leave it. Yes, good girl. So you put something just out of reach. With the cat, you don't have to have them on a leash because you can just use the door. The dog wants to get to the door. With the fence line, you can use the fence because the dog's on the other side. With the puppy, you probably would want to put them on leash. And you put something kind of just out of reach. You cue the word, leave it. They don't know what this means yet. They have no idea what you're asking. But what you do then is you make happy talk noises. Yes, good. And that exciting noise entices the animal to kind of want to engage with you. Whatever animal, the cat may not respond to the same, so it could be with cats. I mean, it's a lot of different kind of, exactly. You know, the sounds the cat likes. What happens is as soon as the animal redirects to you, then we engage the reward. So whether that be food, you can immediately, for efficiency purposes, you can just feed a couple cookies in that situation or do a quick play. Leave it. Yes. That was a perfect example of that, right? I cued her, kind of blew me off. Leave it. Yes. If she does blow me off, then I just make noise till she looks at me, and then your reward. And you just repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. And it's kind of a simple way to do it until you get that response of that, where I don't need all that extra noise. I don't need to add in all that extra bits to it. You knocked over your friend. All right, free. So we can get into more details about what a leave it looks like. There's a lot of more detailed ways to it, but this is a beginning way of teaching that. And you don't even have to use the word leave it. We want, but do you mind if she comes and says hi to you all? Okay. We just want to choose one word and be consistent with that word. And what I want you to notice is I didn't repeat cue over and over and over and over. I said it once, and then I made other fun little noises to entice her over to me, and then I rewarded. We really want to make sure we don't repeat our cues. If we repeat our cues, the dog's going to learn one of two things. They're either going to learn, or the animal is going to learn one of two things. They're either going to learn that the human's just going to say the cue again, and so I can, or they think, leave it, leave it, leave it is the cue, and you have to say it 3 times every single time. I have a client whose dog, they didn't listen to that advice, and now every time the dog to go into a down, they have to go down, down every single time. He will blow them up. That's PK. Then my colleagues know PK. So redirection is a really great tool for a lot of situations. In the case of the dog barking at the fence line, this is what we call barrier frustration. A lot of times you'll see it with dogs on leash as well, where they're super friendly, they're super social animals, but as soon as there's a barrier put up between them and something they want, the barking, yelling, the hackles, even sometimes lunging, and sometimes it can show up as what looks like full-blown aggression. You can watch tons of videos online of like, one of my favorites is there's a golden retriever on one side of a door, and they're just fully going on either side of this glass door. Open. They can easily access each other. Then the corgi comes around, and the golden just waits, and the corgi comes around and drinks some water, and then goes back, and they're just chill with each other, and then goes back to the other side of the door again. And it's classic. As soon as you put that barrier, just like you're experiencing, as soon as there's another dog on the side of the fence, they go off. So barrier frustration is basically like they're frustrated they can't access the thing they want. Even if they have this, I just can't get to that. So redirection is really important because barrier frustration can turn into aggression if we don't deal with it. And so working redirection behaviors is super important. So one of the ways you could potentially practice that is put your dog on leash and start practicing where you take the fence out of the situation. So maybe they're on leash and you're at a distance from another dog, or walking them by dogs that are in fences themselves. Distance is your friend. The farther the animal, the easier it is for the dog to redirect. And even though your dog may not be barking in that situation, it's starting to teach concept. So they see the other dog, you're walking your dog on leash, they see another dog in the park, we say, leave it, make that noise until he looks at you, reward, and repeat. And we'll keep doing that. And once he's got it good, you want to go back to the truck, or are you going to be a good girl? Good girl. If the dog is doing really well at that distance, you decrease distance, and then you train the that situation, which is the fence line. Does that make sense? Do we have further follow-up questions on that? Follow-up questions? No? Okay. Okay. Let's see here. All of a sudden there's a human and they're reaching for the vehicle, and a lot of dogs get really protective of their car and whatnot, you included. And so in those cases, similarly to what we talked about getting the cat comfortable with the kids coming into the house, just full food. So even if the dog is, we pull up to the drive-through and the dog, I don't like you, and then you leave, we're still, what's happening is the dog starts to realize every time we go through a drive-through, I get a huge handful of yummies. I actually am working with a woman right now with a dog who because they usually go through the McDonald's drive-through, and she always orders in a hamburger. And so now he's figured out that the drive-through means I get McDonald's hamburgers. And so he's like, we're going through the drive-through. So really high value, lots of it. If you can buy the dog something at the drive-through, handing it off, fantastic. But even if they're not capable of taking food in that moment, give them the food after, because they'll still create that association of, I went through the drive-through and I got really yummy, awesome. Has to be really good stuff though. You can't, this little thing right here is not going to convince your animal that scary person is worth it, or it means something good. We want McDonald's hamburgers, we want handfuls of food, we want cheese, hot dogs, chicken, tuna fudge, homemade, I know, it's a homemade treat, dogs go crazy for it. You are being so good. So really just anytime your animal's upset by something, best thing you can do is slow exposure to the scary thing, and then having that scary thing always predict really amazing stuff for your animal. And usually food's the best bit. Also happy talk, play if that's what your dog is motivated by. Some animals are not as into food, so we can also do a little tug game, or we can play with a cat toy or the flirt pole or whatever it may be. So creating those positive associations. Now, that goes for anxiety as well. So it's not just in situations where we're dealing with aggression. Aggression, 99% of the time, is a fear-based response. When an animal, including humans, is upset by something, they go into fight, flight, or freeze mode, just like we do. If we're scared of something, we're going to run away from it, we're going to go come at it, or we shut down. And so aggression typically is just a fight response from an animal that is upset by something that is happening to them. However, there's also flight response and there's also shutdown. And that's typically what we would describe as anxiety. Let's see here. I want to make sure, what's our time frame here? Okay, cool. I don't know whose question this is. When does the anxiety typically show up? People coming over? Okay. 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 That's pretty typical, actually. Men are just, they're bigger, they have deeper voices. don't take it personally. It's just how you move, etc. It's just a little bit more intimidating for dogs. Does it present as barking, growling, lunging, or is it more running away, shutting down, barking? Okay. Okay. Will he charge out at them, or is it backing up and barking? Okay. And it's only happening in home environment? Does it happen outside at all? Yep. Yep. Okay. Is the home. Yep. So similarly, I don't know if you got here when I first started talking about the cat and its concerns, but one of the things that can be, Becky, you want to put her back? Thank you. You can use her cue that she has if you want. Oh. Hey, come on, Cookie Becky. Cookie Becky. You're not going to sit. I'm going to join. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so, yep. And one of the big issues that happens a lot with people coming into a home is that we are coming at the animal, right? We open the door and the dog's going, hey, I want space, I want space, give me space, and people keep coming. And they're coming directly in. There's usually tight spaces, and so the dog doesn't feel like it quite has the freedom to move around and keep itself safe. Similarly to when it's on leash, it's off versus off leash. So being that they meet outside, the dog then is not getting kind of approached the same way, and then they can kind of move into the house together. That typically is why that works. So one of the best things you can do without having to do that every time is similarly to what we kind of talked about cat, is with Yeti, is if you can put your pup like in the backyard or in a bedroom that they're comfortable sleeping in, or a room that they're comfortable in, it's not the main space and definitely not the front door, and get your guests in and then bring your dog out. And if you're nervous at all, you can put the dog on leash just to create space, but we can bring, that's just a safety measure. And then you bring the animal in, and then that party happens. That high value food that we were just talking about, the $10,000, the dog just gets tons of food, and it doesn't have to come from the stranger. It can come from. So they don't have to approach. It's actually better, like if Cody, who's off camera right here, was the guest, and we'd already gotten him in, and we got him sitting down, and we bring the dog about here, we throw the party to the dog over here. The dog doesn't feel like it has to get over to the guest and doesn't have to engage the guest. And then you can, if you're like, okay, I don't want to deal with this, you can put the dog away again. So you can entertain your friend and hang out and not worry about, yeah. And then if you're like, okay, let's do a little bit more training, you bring him out again. We do another rep of feeding him while he's around the stranger. Like again, multiple reps, shorter exposure time are going to be a lot better than one long forcing the dog to hang out with the scary thing. Yeah, yeah. And you know, it can be I could sit here and parse out the whys, but the whys don't matter. We attack it the same way. So if we knew why he was upset, whether it was like abuse or whether it was a bad experience or a lack of exposure or whatever it may be, we still approach it the same way. And so this is basically what we do, is we get the dog away so it's not having to deal with being walked into, it doesn't have its space being entered, because sometimes there is a little bit of that protection thing similar to the drive-through stuff. Get the dog put away, bring the human in. Also, a sitting human is way less threatening than a standing human or a walking human. Yep, and so we get the human sitting down, we bring the dog in, the dog is not forced to interact with the stranger. You feed and happy talk and feed and happy talk the whole time. As long as they're in the same room, they're getting food and happy talk. And then if you're like, all right, I need a break, put the dog back away. Sometimes it can help to put like a white noise or brown noise or classical music on in the back room just to drown out the sounds of you all talking. And it also can calm the animal sometimes. And then you just do those repeated exposures over and over and over. People who you see frequently are going to be the ones that come into the inner circle way more quickly. This is what the term for this is what's called counter conditioning. So the animal has a negative conditioned emotional response to something that in their brain, that means that this, I think this is scary. And what we're doing is we're countering that. We're teaching them that this thing they thought was scary now actually predicts good things for me. And they start to go, oh, you know what? Nothing bad happened. I didn't get hurt. I didn't get killed. I didn't get injured. Nobody threatened me. And actually, I got $10,000. And so that's pretty awesome, right? And so we start to create that positive association. Chico, this is what we're going to do. Same idea. Walk by, toss food, move on. Walk by, toss food, move on. Walk by, toss food, move on. Doesn't matter what he's doing. Does not matter what he's doing. Because it's not a matter of, a lot of times people get afraid, like, oh, are we going to reinforce the bark, right? Or we're going to reinforce that negative behavior. The cool thing is that usually when we're dealing with anxiety, aggression, the animal's upset, right? They don't feel good about a situation or a person or a thing. And so the barking or the lunging or the growling or the biting or whatever it may be, it's a behavioral expression of happiness. And so if we change how the animal feels, the behavioral expression changes. So for instance, if there was, I'm terrified of spiders. So if there was a spider that just dropped down right now here, I'd be out of here. I'm screaming, I'm running out that door as fast as possible. My screaming and running is a behavior. It is me doing something, but it's not, I'm not consciously doing it. Like, you know what I should do right now is this in order to receive that. It's totally something that comes from how I'm feeling about fighting this. If somebody were to give me $10,000 every single time I saw a spider, I'm going to start to think spiders are pretty cool, and I'm going to start to get excited when I see spiders, and instead of screaming and running away, I'm going to go, woohoo, yippee! And so my behavioral expression changes as I feel better about the thing that I thought was scary. And that's the same for once again, it's all vertebrate learning. And so we change how the animal feels, we change how they act around that scary thing. And so we're not reinforcing unwanted behavior. Reinforcement only applies to, it doesn't have to do with emotion, like sit or down or like believe that I was just doing with Stella. Does that make sense? You have questions about any of that? No? Okay. You can always ask follow-ups afterwards. All right. Well, like to go like as much as there's that. So just a reference here. We have a shelter. One of the women here from Stray Hearts, thank you for coming, who works there. She's the adoptions coordinator, right? And so she had they had come in with a question. We were going to talk about that separately, but just in general, they have a dog who's developed some like charging at the gate for people and dogs. And so this is what I was referencing: is they can walk by the gate or the kennel door, toss high value food, and move on. And so the dog starts to recognize that people coming up to the kennel door predicts me getting amazing things tossed into my kennel. They're not hanging out there. They're not forcing me to do anything. Just it rains amazingness. And you'll see them start to go, oh, I'm coming over here to give me good things. And then we can talk about how to extend that. Okay, there's. All right. I've got two questions here, pooping indoors and healing. So let's see. Right here, and it lays it out beautifully. So typically what we need to do is it's a kind of a 1, 2, 3 process. And so we one, we need to know when the animal's empty and full. So did they just eat? Did they just, if it's specifically pooping, then we need to know when they ate because we know the animal is full. Do they pee inside set 2? Or is it just pooping? Okay. So if we know the animal has just eaten, then we know that they're going to need to expel that at some point. And so we got to be on it, diligent. As soon as an animal is full, they've just eaten, we know they've just eaten, we got to take the animal outside on them. Give them about 5 to 10 minutes outside. If they don't poop outside, we got to contain them. When they come in, they go in a crate or an X-pen. This is an X-pen. It's just a way to, if it's a dog, contain it. A cat would jump right over this thing. So a small enough area where they're not like have so much freedom that they can lay in one spot and poop in another, but big enough that they can move around a little bit. Like we don't want them, in a tight, or you can just use a regular crate if they have a crate. So we take them outside, give them 5 to 10 minutes to do their business. If they don't, we bring them in and we contain them for half an hour. Most animals will not go to the bathroom where they are hanging out or near them. They're very clean. They don't want to poop or pee next to themselves. And so this prevents them from doing the, I just came back in and I'm going to poop. Half an hour later, we take them outside. We give them another opportunity to do it. If they do poop outside, we have to throw them the biggest party. We need to let them know that that was so amazing. So that's all of it, and then cookies, or at least one cookie. Going to the bathroom for an animal is self-reinforcing. It feels just as good to go inside as it feels to go outside. There's no difference for them. If you think about it, like we don't go to the bathroom outside most of the time, right? We choose to go inside because it's nicer inside. So we have to give the animal a reason to choose to want to go outside, because inside to outside makes no difference for them. So by throwing them a party and giving them a cookie, we are motivating them to decide it's much better to go outside because I get paid when I go outside. If they do go outside and once they've gotten their cookie, we bring them in. Now they can have freedom. And they can run around the house and they can be a free animal. Once again, though, if they consume again, they've eaten some more food, we go through the routine again. It's not fun. House training is one of the hardest things to start working through just because it takes so much diligence on our part. I'm going to pre-answer the question if your animal has confinement anxiety. If they're afraid to be in a crate or they're afraid to be in an X-pen, then that leash is attached to you and they are with you for that next half an hour, because that way you can keep an eye on what's called pre-elimination routine. Every animal has a little routine they go through before they go to the bathroom. They stick their nose on the ground, start sniffing. A lot of times they'll start circling. We see that going, we can interrupt and immediately take them outside. If they're running free in the house, we're not going to see it. And then the one thing you really don't want to do, not saying that you do this, but just to preemptively answer or stop this, the one thing we never want to do is if the animal poops or pees in the house, or we catch them peeing or pooping, we never want to punish them for it. We don't want to, bad, stop, no, bad. Because what can happen, especially if we catch them in the act doing it, we think we're stopping that. But what we may be doing is what's called reverse house training, which is teaching the animal not to go to the bathroom in front of us. And then you've got an animal who hides it from you. And they will do whatever it takes to not poop in front of you. They won't do it when you're in the yard. They won't do it when they're on a leash with you, on a walk. And they're going to hide it and you're going to find it later. We don't want to punish them for going to the bathroom. We just, too bad, we go outside. And, outside. We just make it we usher them out and then reward them outside. And then also, if we've come across it after the fact and we didn't see them do it, the other reason we don't want to punish is because they have no recollection of doing that. That already happened. They're like, why are you yelling at me? What they're going to think you're yelling at them about is whatever they literally last did. And it could have been that they sat in front of you. Or it could have been that they just came to you. Whatever last behavior they did is what they think you're punishing. That they are not making the connection that it's to that poop or pee. So it's really about being super, super diligent to prevent that accident from happening inside so that that's not getting reinforced. Well, you can follow up with me afterwards, or if you want to, or go further or expand. Well, you have to go outside with them. Okay? So you put him in a contained environment when you bring him inside. So let's try putting him in a contained environment so that he can't rehearse that, and then half an hour later try it again. So, because he's just going where he feels comfortable going. And to him, that's the bathroom. It doesn't make any difference to him at this point. And so we just keep repeating this. Like I said, that house training handout will review all of this as well. As far as healing and walking, and I got these things. Okay. As you can see, our little buddy here. He's got what's called a freedom harness. These things are my favorite harnesses if you're not familiar with them. They're, I think, maybe like $38 to $40. You have to order them online. Unfortunately, no one in town sells them. It's an anti-pull harness. It just goes over their head like that. It's got this nice, soft, like velveteen, which is helpful for the short-haired kids. And put it on. And then I'll show you the leash that comes with it. So it's what's called an anti-pull harness. And the reason being is that we hook the leash to the chest here. There's a little hook on the front here. What happens is when the dog pulls, it gets redirected. So anytime that dog pulls on this leash and the leash gets taut, this is what starts to happen to the animal. So what they start learning is that if I start pulling in this direction, if I pull, I get redirected. I don't get to keep going where I want to go. If you're ever in like a city environment, the nice thing about the leash that comes with this, if you're like downtown and you want them on a closer leash, instead of having to do all of the little techniques that we do to keep our leashes short, which we have time, I'll show you how to not do that. But the nice thing about this leash is that you can hook it on the back and you've got a naturally shorter leash. The animal's just naturally closer to you. And then you're like, all right, we're back on trail. We have a little bit more room and I want to allow the dog to sniff. The leash then turns back into a 6-foot leash. So these harnesses do come. This will do a lot of the work for you as far as walking nicely. You grab Stella again. Sorry, I thought I didn't need her, but I'm going to. I'm also going to need her for that little deaf puppy there. So that's called a freedom harness. There are other styles, like this is called a sensible harness. Though these work, they don't work nearly as well as this style harness. This is my favorite by far. The other reason I like this is that it's got a T-shaped design on it, whereas like these go flat across the chest. And the T-shaped design just gives them more shoulder mobility. They're not kind of, sometimes these ones, if they're ill-fit, well-fitted, they work great, but if they're ill-fit, it can cause shoulder injury. Ian, you're back. You're back. You got a demo again. So the other thing is carry food with you. If your dog is not highly motivated by food, you want to bring really high value food, something the dog is super stoked about. So, you know, sardines, I've got freeze-dried liver, bacon, chicken, boiled chicken, that tuna fudge. I can get you guys a recipe for that if you're interested. So bring food with you on a walk. So not only are you going to walk them on this harness, but anytime your dog makes eye contact with you, we want to feed them. And instead of me feeding her over here and bringing my food to her, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lure her into a loose heel position next to me. This is what's called position feeding. It teaches the dog that this is where food comes from. And so they automatically start moving into this position, or they offer that position to you. I'll have a ton of room here. Girl, yes. Good job. Good job. You ready? Yeah. Yes. Good job. Good job. And so once again, anytime the dog makes eye contact, so even if yes, she made eye contact with me, I'm going to bring her back around and I'm going to feed her in that loose position. You can choose any side. I typically have my treat bag on my right side, so it's easier for me. I also like my dog on my right side just because usually if I'm walking down the sidewalk or whatnot, I'm between the cars and my dog. That's the only reason. Choose whatever side you want. Left side actually just came from the military. It was done on my right, dog on my left. That's the only reason left is traditional. So choose whatever side. But what you're going to start to do is the dog's going to start to realize that there's this food coming. And it's not like you're going to have to do that forever for the rest of the animal's life. They start to just kind of walk in line. The harness does a lot of that other pulling for you when you do want to allow your animal to sniff and dog and go on snifaries, as I call them. Yeah. Yeah. Does that answer that question? Would you like to ask further? More of you? Okay. Okay. So this is something you could practice in your house without a leash, so that you don't have to worry about the leash getting wrapped around your legs. The benefit of practicing it without the leash is, one, you don't get tripped up, and the dog can focus. So he starts to learn what that concept is, so you can start really teaching that concept. You have a yard. You said you have a yard. So then you practice it in the yard. Same thing, no leash on. They don't have to be leashed for this exercise. Sometimes I actually prefer not to practice it at home with a leash on, because I don't want them thinking that this only works when there's a leash on. And so practice it so you don't have without the leash on, so that you can, in a low distraction environment, start to really establish that concept with the dog, so that when you're outside, it kind of already knows that this is it can play with mom. They do make these harnesses small enough. How big is the dog? Would you say? Yeah. Okay. So they would definitely have harnesses that will fit that dog, and that's going to do a lot of the work for you. The other thing is kind of being very leash conscious, and that's a big part of kind of for you is being smart about where you're holding that leash. If we are loose we have a long leash, and I haven't said hi to you guys yet. If we have a long leash and we're not kind of being leash smart, then the dog's going to start to kind of trip us up. So if you need to, holding her, maybe leave it. Thank you. Okay. So if I want the dog on my right, I'm going to hold the dog probably either with my right hand, try and keep the leash a little bit shorter so that we can't kind of grip it up as much. And then also making sure, I know. That you also give your dog opportunity to sniff. So sometimes what happens is they're just like, we're constantly trying to get them walking in a straight, boring line with us, when really the dog needs to go out and move around. So either keeping the dog on a tighter leash next to us, or using an even longer line. The benefit of a long line is that the dog is now going to move off of us and want to go sniff and explore in their environment. And so now they're going to be into this leash. This leash is about 15 feet, I think. For a small dog, that's probably, hey. I go find all the cookies. Stella, hey. Good girl. Good job. Good deal. The long lines help as well, because then the dog's not like right up on you. I'm bored. I want to go on a walk. I'm so excited. You're my entertainment committee. You're my entertainment committee. Now this gets them off you a little bit and gets them moving around, and getting to explore their environment with actually having it kind of simulates being off leash without actually being off leash. These are what's called biothane leashes. I really enjoy them because they're super lightweight. So it's not like this big heavy thing the dog's dragging. And then if we ever get weather, they don't suck up mud because they're plastic wrap. You guys can check them out at the end. I know. And if you have further questions about that, let me know after. I'm around for further questioning after. I want to, let's see. There's so many questions. So this question, how to acclimate to parties with only humans. Is the dog upset with humans, or is it just so excited? Yeah. Okay. I just clarified it's not a fear thing. It's a social thing. Okay. Yep. 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 There's always management solutions. Keep him on a leash with you, just so that he can't just do that kind of thing. 2, redirection. So like we talked about the leave it. So if he's starting to get a little too, no, it's you, You can cue that, leave it, redirection, calling him back over to you. Does he have any food guarding issues? Like if somebody were to approach him when he has food? Okay. Also giving him something to do, see if he'll be engaged with it. So like a frozen Kong, a bully stick, so that he's got something to do other than socializing. That can help. If he starts body slamming or jumping on people, you can do a timeout. You're like, oh, too bad, buddy. Just a gentle, oh, too bad. And he goes into a back bedroom for a few minutes. And he's like, I don't want to be antisocial. And then you bring him back out. So through repetition, how timeouts work is he starts to realize anytime I jump on the guests, I lose access to the guests. I jump on the guests, I lose access to the guests, and he'll start changing behavior because dogs do what works for dogs. Right? Probably, if you've heard me talk before, you're going to hear me say that a ton of times. If a behavior works to get a dog something he wants and he's not upset, he's going to do more of that behavior. And if it takes something he wants away, he's going to do less of it. And so if he keeps learning that every time he jumps on guests, he loses access, he's gonna start to go, I got to do something different. This isn't working for me. And so same thing with the body slamming. Is that when you're going to let him out, or is it when you let him in? Mm-hmm. So one of the things you can start to do is like an approach. So start coming to the door. Is he jumping on the door before? Yep. So if you see him doing that, and then we back off. He's gonna be like, what just happened? He jumps back down. We start approaching the door again. He jumps up. Oh. So what he learns is whenever I'm up, I send my human away. When I get back down on the floor, my human approaches me. You're being blank. You're being blank. Yep, that exact activity. And then as you start to open the door, so does it pull towards you or you pull towards him? Or push towards you? You start to open and he's like, I'm rearing. Whoop, too bad, close it, back off. And so same thing, and you're just be ready that he may jump on that door, but he starts to jump on that door, bum rush it, we close it again. So we're basically teaching him he has to be in kind of, he has to what we call 4 on the floor. He has 4 paws on the floor, we still engage with opening the door. He starts to jump again, we close it. And so once again, it's this kind of call and response. Jumping sends my human away, 4 on the floor brings my human to me. And so it's a way she's kind of, she'll still sometimes jump on people, but when she's in training mode, she knows not to. I'm going to see if I can get her to, though. I don't really care, but that's my own personal thing. I'll use. What are you doing, you beat a cuckoo? Are you going to jump for me? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So with that type of thing, if he's going full speed, we need to use those redirections. Yeah. Okay. So you can practice with you first. You're going to be the first person he learns not to jump on. If you have guests that come over frequently, one of the ways you could do it is you could have him on leash, and you could do exactly what I just did there, which is you hold him on leash, they approach and go, and if he's staying on the floor, they come over and they 4 on the floor and they come over and they give him some love and greet him. If he starts to jump, you have him on leash so he can't continue, and they back off. Yep. And if he's doing really good, you do what I just did there, which is you have them then get them so super excited. And he's going to be like, oh my God, it's so fun. And then he jumps up. He learns that it doesn't matter even how the humans are talking. Even if they're wild and having a great time at a party, that doesn't mean now I get to jump on the humans. They're just teaching him contexts. The big thing here with a lot of what you're kind of the theme with a lot of this is we got to train like for a context, not necessarily in the context. So you kind of set them up for success instead of just trying to train them in the moment. So like similar like to the dog that I talked about with the fence. We start with maybe dog on leash far away before we move into training around the actual fence line. So then they can get the concept of it. Okay. You're welcome. Okay. All right, we've got it. This is a very, I'm excited about this question. So this question is, I recently adopted a deaf heeler puppy and have questions about how do you handle a deaf dog, right? So everything I just talked about is very, most of our training is very vocal based and whatnot. The cool thing about training a deaf dog is you don't actually have to train a verbal cue. You can just train hand signals. And dogs learn hand signals so much faster than verbal cues. Because dogs communicate through body language. They're always, here's crinkling somewhere. They're always watching us move, trying to figure out what that means for them. And so they can pick up on hand signals very quickly. It's also how they talk, is through body language. And so they're always observing body movement. Verbal cues, however, we talk all the time. And we talk a lot to our animal. And so for them to have to figure out that this particular word is important to them is really hard. They're amazing at it. They're incredible at it. But it takes them a long time. The cool thing is you don't have to go that step. You get to just teach them hand signals. So first, working hand signals, sit, down, stay, come when called. Big gestures are going to be helpful as well. The hard part is, what if the dog's not looking at me, right? You're on a leash with him, him or her. You're on a leash with her. She's at the end of the leash. She doesn't know you're there. A gentle butt tap can help. I've seen people, as long as I'm hesitant to use this because she's a heeler, but some people you can use like a laser light or like a really sharp, strong flashlight to shine in front of them, and you train them that when they see that light, they're supposed to look at you because they get cookies. You just want to make sure you don't do a lot of movement with it, because heelers want to chase, and we don't want to. Never use a laser pointer for dogs. Putting it out there. Cats, it's fine. For whatever reason, dogs can develop obsessive compulsive disorder with it. So you can shine a little light in front of them. Yeah. Yeah. So some dogs are just born with that. And as long as you can redirect them, it's not really a troublesome issue. But if they get so obsessive, I mean, some dogs will do it. They won't sleep because they're just so focused, and I have to get it. My old dog used to be a light chaser, but I could always redirect him. I could always kind of, hey, how about we do something else instead of light chasing? Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, OCD. Well, it's called CCD, canine compulsive disorder. Unfortunately, is, hey, can you come back over here, please? I know you want to say hi to everybody. Thank you. We don't want to encourage it. Is the point? Some dogs are born with it, but as long as you don't move the light and you have like that sharp flashlight, so you can at least shine it in front of him, or tap or her, or tap just a light tap. We don't want it to be aversive. And what we're training the dog to do is that's an attention getter. So instead of me saying my name, right, which is what we're so used to doing, Stella, and we get the attention, the way we do this is what's called charging it. So whether it be the tap or whether it be the light is, let's say it's a light, you turn it on so she can see it, and then you give her a cookie. No behavior required. A little bit later, you turn it on, you give her a cookie. A little bit later, you turn it on, you give her a cookie. Different rooms of the house, different spaces, practice outside. What she starts to learn is, man, every time I see that light, I get a cookie. So she's going to start orienting to you in order to receive that treat. So she knows, oh, I know what's coming next. I'm about to get a cookie. Same thing with the butt tap. It'd be butt tap. Okay. So we want to teach her that means something good is coming. So she knows that's where you get that orientation. And also it helps make sure that they're not like, doing to me. And so it's really important when you're charging something like that, like, let's say so don't reach into the treat bag. Dogs are you don't have to worry about bag crinkle with him, which is fantastic. It's actually way easier to train tough dogs. But we don't have the movement of reaching. The dog goes, I'm getting food. They know that. Pocket reaching, bag reaching, they know they're getting food. You can see she's orienting. So you want to make sure that you tap, or light tap is even better, a little light tap, and then we reach into our bag and feed the dog the food. And then a little while later, because now he's all or she's all oriented towards you, a little while later, nice little tap, and then we feed. So that's how you're going to start getting that attention. And then it's really like, it's all the same basic training: sit down, stay, someone called, come. You can use like a hand signal, hand target for that. That's her recall. That's why she's getting so much food. Another one that people do is like a big like sweep with their arm for a recall, because it's big obvious. If you're going to do like a lower hand target, they get like a big sweep so she can see. I would definitely not let her off leash anytime soon. You did end up adopting, okay. The problem is if she goes off of dogs, she doesn't know where you are. You have a tracker for her? Okay. It's just a GPS. It's not like a shot collar. Okay, okay, cool. I would recommend getting her a long line. And the only reason being is she can drag this. You can custom order these, and you can actually get them, like this one's 30 feet. You can actually get them without the loop at the end, so you don't have to worry about this getting caught on stuff. Just so that if she can't hear you, you can get to her, and you only have to get within the long line distance of her. You don't have to get all the way to her. Especially if you're in panic mode and you come at a dog like this, they're gonna bolt. They're like, why are you being so weird? Why are you coming at me like that? And so the long line, you just have to get within 30 feet of your animal. So just as a precautionary, because if she decides I'm not going with my buddies and she doesn't see you, we're in a situation. Because even if you're tracking her and she's going, she doesn't know you're calling for her, right? And that's part of the issue with that. So last we have any tips to stop a dog from licking hot spots? That's a hard one because they're annoying, right? The dog wants to get at them. That's almost, unfortunately, a little bit more of a medical question. Have you talked? What did the vet say about your guys's? And of course, she rips it all off. Yeah. Get down to the bottom why she has hot spots. They can be associated with anxiety. How's she been doing? Okay. Is she on medication for it? For anxiety? She's not? Okay. Sometimes it can be GI issues. Sometimes it can be allergies. Do they have did they tell you why she's getting them? No. Okay. Yeah. It's a different stuff. Okay. Yeah, sometimes just pain related. Unfortunately, the hotspots are hard because there's a reason behind it. And sometimes it's medical, sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes it's pain. It may be going into delving a little bit deeper, maybe going to somebody who's a bit more of a specialist to delve a little bit deeper onto why they're coming up, so we can prevent them from happening in the first place. Because to me, that's something that's untreated in my brain. And so if we don't figure out why she's getting them and why she's creating them, there's a reason she's going at it. If you guys know what hotspots are, they're like little irritants on an animal's body where they just consistently lick and lick and lick, and they get super irritated. And then they can never heal because they're consistently licking at them. And I've seen them because of GI issues. I've seen them because of allergies. I've seen them because of anxiety. So it's like, it's hard because it can be a medical issue, and sometimes it can be a psychological issue. But if she's doing well with her anxiety, you might want to check into some sort of maybe a stomach issue that may also be allergy related. It's insane. Just kind of getting into more of it, because if they're showing up in multiple places, there's a reason they're showing up, right? Otherwise, it's redirection, unfortunately, and keeping it covered, and it's not ideal. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you finally scratch that stupid mosquito bite, and you're like, why did I do that? And then you can't stop doing it, and then when you have scabs all over your body, it's just, that's what she's feeling, right? So you can't explain it to her exactly. So redirecting her as much as you can. I know there's sprays, but then they lick them off. But I personally would want to go delve a little deeper into why she's getting them as opposed to just, well, she had one, you know what I mean? Medically, at least. That can be just asking, probing more questions to your vet, to your dog's advocate, you know what I mean? I recently saw a post that applied to humans, and I think it applies to dogs as well, which is sometimes we ask a question, and if they're kind of normal, they say we're okay. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're not dealing with an issue. We may not be sick, right? We may not be dying, but we're not normal, right? We're not feeling good, even though everything else may be in normal range. And so we got to kind of push to advocate for ourselves of, I'm not feeling great. So for our dogs too, it's like this, especially if it happened in 2 different places now. There was one consistently, and it's like, all right, maybe that's an injury or a sore spot. Are they on her legs? Yeah. Yeah, if it's one, it could be like, it could be an injury. It could be that she got a cactus prong in there and we don't know that it's there, but the fact that now we have another one, is it only the 2? Or is she getting more now? Yeah. On her left leg. Yeah, I mean, you may want to talk to somebody who's dealing with, I mean, that's pain too, you know, because if it hurts, she's going to look at it. And then she creates the hot spot because she keeps looking at the pain. And dogs do look for pain all the time. So I know that's not like magic powder, the magic, you know, question. All right, we're about at time here. So what I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. If you guys have other questions, we'll be standing around the table. There's tons of, please check it out, tons of informative handouts. The books are there as references of just like different suggested reading materials that can give you lots of information. And actually, what's your name, sir? Yeti's dad? SD. There's a book I want to point out to you. Okay. So just when I'm just going to finish up here. What's that? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's either going to be on, if it's canceled, it's on our website. We'll pull it off any of the other things. We also, yeah, if you could fill out the questionnaire, you have time. It's just a few short questions. We have our cards there if you want to learn more about what Safe Pet Partners does. My card, personal Eva Perigo with Star Dog Trainings cards are there if you want to do further training. And also just if you want general information, once again, yeah, share your contact with us and we'll let you know when we're doing more events, other different types of things we're doing, and keep you apprised of all the cool stuff we've got in the works. All right, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you.